Good afternoon, Bruce.
Well, nice to have you in our History on the World.
Yes, in the History Hall of Tweed, here we are with the chairman, CEO, and co-founder of
Topics and titles.
Canopy, Tweed, Spectrum. Can't keep up with it.
Yes, indeed. There's a lot going on.
Yeah. Bruce, I want to start with an open-ended question, and I think you're going to enjoy this. I've seen your telescopic vision. I see how your mind works, all your cogs all the time. So let's have some fun. Talk to me about the future, not too far, a timeline, both medicinal and recreational, product development, innovation over the next 2, 3, 4 years, even year.
Yeah.
What do you see as developments that people do not see yet?
Well, you know, everybody's from somewhere, and you end up becoming pretty expert on that place and how you think about it. So Canadians know October 17th began the normalization. But there was a debate then whether or not, and led by the Canadian Medical Association of all people, whether or not medical should just disappear and you can go to a store and buy like a bottle of liquor kind of thing for cannabis. And that is going to look like the most unthoughtful, ridiculous thing in the history of dumb in about 3 years. And it's because the medical program is going to be bigger in terms of our business in 3 years, I think, than the party. And the reason is there are 33 countries around the planet right now that are saying we would like to regulate cannabinoid therapy, medical marijuana, and turn it into a pharmaceutical program. And if you take the populations of all those countries, it's like 10x, almost 20x the population of Canada. And so there's a huge prize for figuring out how do we run clinical trials, how do we create outcomes that people want. So whether or not we're doing a thing with this group called the Ontario Long-Term Care Association. And what we have are about 500 people, that could be your aunt or uncle, mom and dad, mine too, who are in long-term care. And the objective of the study is how do we reduce allocation to those people of opioids. So the Ontario Long-Term Care Association has said, we believe people will do better in a long-term care facility if we can diminish the types of drugs we administer to them.
Oh, I so agree.
And the reason it will work is maybe mom and dad aren't actually experiencing diminished intellectual capabilities, but they're having drug-on-drug interaction.
They sure are.
And so I think that will become a huge cohort will effect. I think that things like...
now, are you thinking national, global right now?
Global. So when we do our studies, and the reason medical will be big is we're doing them in a fashion that it doesn't matter the jurisdiction of approval. We're trying to find paths of approval in Canada that follow all the double-blind, peer-reviewed,
Exactly.
so it doesn't matter. You don't know which country it was stamped on. It's done in a universally standard way. So we're doing that. Then you start thinking about, well, you know, there's all that kinds of anecdotal evidence if you're going through oncology that you might find inhaling cannabis diminishes your nausea but generates an appetite. So we're going to dig into that in a big way. We're going to dig into things like anxiety. We're going to dig into how do we make dogs that are geriatric better off? How do we get rid of dog anxiety? So if we find all these things and patent them, they're global. So medical is going to be the biggest
Does that occupy most of your mind?
Well, I would say that we've got some of our best minds are in our division focused on that. And it's kind of like...
The Spectrum?
Yeah, in Spectrum and Canopy Health, because what happens is, it's a bit like, I don't really like watching Formula One car racing, but I do like the fact that it exists. And the reason I like that it exists is about 2 or 3 years after the technology gets proven there, it ends up in your car and my car, which means we have better brakes, we have better airbags, and so science in our world informs recreational products. Formula One informs your daily driver. And so when we do great science, what happens is our recreational products will be amazing. And so quite often now, Americans and other people will tell us, you need to have brands, it will always be a brand. And that is actually not true. What's going to be true on medical products is they're going to inform rec products, and rec products that don't exist today, that you can't buy, that you couldn't even ask about, will show up in the market.
Let's talk about those rec products.
So think about across the street, we just knocked down a building, we're building a new building. And it's going to have a bottling line, and what goes in those bottles are products that do not exist anywhere in the world today as a marketed product. If that product makes you have a fantastically positive feeling, upbeat on Thursday night, and you don't get a hangover, you don't have drug-on-drug interaction, and you can show up at work on Friday going, let's get going. guess what you're going to want to buy next Thursday? My stuff.
Yeah.
And so that kind of product doesn't exist. And when it does exist, it really won't matter what we call it, because it'll be so much better, in our opinion, that people will seek it out. So then if we marry it with great marketing, it's going to be massively disruptive. And so I think there's going to be that.
When is this happening, the licensing? Is it April? What's April all about?
Well, so there's always things happening in licensing. So around the world, they're handing out licenses to grow cannabis, to do research. Doesn't matter if it's Germany, Italy, wherever. Then in Canada, what they're going to have, I think, before we get to the next election, is they will have done what they said they will do on cannabis, which is both create the platform we're running today and allow us to make new products for the last quarter of 2019, which are those products I described, the beverage, the vaporizing, inhaling product. And so
I noticed you bought a company a couple days ago on vaporizing.
And so these things, those will be in the fourth quarter 2019, I believe, because, you know, elections are funny things. You need to win them. And if you want to win them, you got to show progress, and you got to show benefits, and you got to show sort of people, I think, will see this cannabis file as probably the single most successful enterprise of the Liberals.
Yeah, well, Jeff Sessions isn't running, so...
No, but I'm saying the Liberals in Canada have done something that no other country has done, which is to use political will to manage cannabis. And really what they're actually doing is they're regulating and monetizing. Now, it doesn't sound so exciting.
I'm not too fond of that, can I be honest?
Well, but you know what? The only reason you're not fond of it is maybe you know somebody in a puffy coat selling the stuff already. Because I'm not introducing. No,
but I don't like the government. I like that in a few provinces the licensing is private.
Well, I like the private.
Like in Alberta and Manitoba and
Ontario,
Ontario, it's kind of not decided yet.
No.
Very hard.
So in April for those, what's going to happen is on December 17th, the criteria for application has been issued, and applications to build private sector stores in Ontario are being accepted starting December 17th.
Yahoo!
And what will happen is about 250 stores will open up sometime between now and the end of June, and those stores currently have no product. And they're nowhere because they don't exist. But they're going to be scattered across the province, and what's going to happen is it's going to be a really bad time for the bad guys. Because now you can walk to a store, use cash, buy products that are proven, they don't have fecal chloroform or other bad stuff in them that the illegal...
Fecal chloroform?
Oh, for sure. Do you think the bad guys wash their hands perfectly, cover their hands with gloves, swab down the pads? No. The campaign I want to run is, do you want shit or good shit? Yeah, it's going to be like, it's so...
We won't believe that. That's...
But you know what?
Urban Dictionary.
At the end of the day, what's going to happen is when people can walk somewhere and interact with a knowledgeable salesperson, they can get informed about the type, quantity, strength, when, where, what.
So you're going to really scrutinize who gets a license?
Well, we're going to work hard to get our own, but we're also, we've educated almost 2,000 people who sell cannabis already.
Wow.
And they're not just all our employees, so we have this self-paced.
So could you have a retail, in the distribution channels you'll have more than one then?
Oh yeah, and there's always a rule, and we like rules. One of the rules is that we can have probably one here and one at our other locations we produce.
Right.
Then we can own about 9.9% of other ones, but we might be able to do franchising. Franchising might mean that I actually help you run it, so maybe I'll make more economic gain. But for us, retail is about people having access and us gathering information so we know what you want.
Wow. So the Briggs truck that you just made a deal with, I can imagine why. It's like gold to some people. Yeah. Is it going to, where's it delivering to right now, or is it not being used yet? Where are the distribution centers?
So we start in Smiths Falls, and we distribute to the whole country using Briggs. So in Alberta, they have a centralized warehouse, even though they have a private sector.
The government?
So the government has a warehouse in Alberta. It receives the cannabis. Then all these private sector stores place orders and get it. Just like they're going to do in Ontario.
So we have OCS. What do they have? All kinds of things.
Alberta Cannabis Authority. Essentially what it is they take possession and redistribute to the private sector stores. That's what's going to happen in Ontario. But we deliver it to Quebec. We everywhere with Brinks. But then what we also do is when we take it out there with Brinks, we have production sites across the country. And we bring back either product or in the future extracted product to Smiths Falls, because this is our center of excellence for creating things.
Wow.
And so we bring the cannabis here to make it into a gel cap.
Are they always going to be separate from medicinal? Because couldn't it be easier to get it from a licensed store, or do you have to go through doctor? Because doctor adoption is really...
Well, I would say it's always going to be medicinal, and I think the medicinal market's going to grow really rapidly in Canada, because suppose you were taking something for an arthritic condition.
Right.
And suppose it was making your gut terrible and you just felt awful. before October 17th, if you went to your doc and said, you know, I've done my research, I really would like to have access to cannabis, your doctor might slide their glasses down their nose and look at you and say, you really want that, or do you want to party? Now that we have a choice to go get it recreationally, you can have a truthful conversation with your doctor with no suspicion of your intent. So that's going to make people be more open. Second thing that's happening is as we do these clinical trials, if I can make a claim that, you know, 8 out of 10 women under the age of 35 have had a benefit.
Thank you for that.
have had a benefit from this.
Yeah.
You're going to say to the doc, I don't want pot. I don't want marijuana. I want the cannabinoid therapy that works.
Yeah.
And if the formatted delivery looks like a hard pill, a gel cap, if it looks like something you go, and it's easy. Now all of a sudden it's not looking like dry bud. And so I think what you're going to find is that the idea that you would go to the store which is going to sell the beverage for a party is not at all the same thing at all.
Let me ask a personal question.